New Jersey to Las Vegas, New Jersey Raider Nation, coming to you live.
All right, I have to talk about it. Everybody's talking about it. Derek Carr's benched for the first time in his career. He's been the Raiders' starting quarterback for 9 seasons, and he's missed 2 regular season games and 1 postseason game, all 3 due to injury. And this is the first time that he's ever benched for anything, in non-injury related. Josh McDaniels announced today that Jarrett Stidham is going to be starting as the Raiders quarterback for the last 2 games of this season. And I'm just going to play that real quick so you can hear what he had to say about that.
We're going to go ahead and start Jarrett the last couple games of the season here. None of us is happy with where we're at, but we think it's an opportunity to evaluate a younger player who hasn't had much time to play. Talking to Derek, who was great. He understands the scenario that we're in and the situation, and very supportive of the 2 young guys. Those 3 guys obviously have worked together hand in hand all year, and he'll do anything he can to help them. So that's what we're going to do, and obviously we're started into our preparation for what I think probably is the best football team top to bottom that we've played.
So obviously everybody's been talking about it all day. It's a huge deal. Again, Derek Carr is a 9-year Raider vet. He sleeps, eats, breathes Raiders. I mean, that's all he knows in the NFL. And for the most part, I think the fan base really appreciates everything that he's done. But Derek Carr has been a very divisive topic in Raider Nation. People either hate him or love him, and I don't really know why it's gotten to that point. I think he's average, above average quarterback. I think his leadership skills, his characteristics, he brings a lot to the table that you hope a good your franchise quarterback would have. With that said, I think he's had a very unlucky career with defenses being ranked some of the worst defenses in the leagues for most of the years. He's had 6 different head coaches in his 9 years, including this year, brand new coach, brand new general manager, brand new entire staff. So I think he's had a very unlucky career in that aspect, because look at last year, 3rd year under Gruden, each year was getting better and better. We all know how that turned out with the shit show that the Raiders were last year, but he still brought that team to the playoffs. With all that being said, I truly think that Derek Carr is a very good quarterback. You got to look at more than just being able to run out of the pocket. There's more to it at that position, leadership, everything. And in terms of passing and mobility, I think he's average. I think he's above average. But again, people love to disagree and talk about that, go back and forth all day. That's really not why I'm making this video. My point for this video is just to kind of say my opinion on this whole situation. And I'll start off by saying I don't think this is the end of Derek Carr in a Raiders uniform. A lot of people are saying, bye-bye Carr, thank you for your career with the Raiders, but I really don't think it's the end. But with that said, this is a day-to-day, week-to-week situation. I could feel completely different next week. Hey, Jarrett Stidham can play and beat the 49ers, and I'll be rooting for him for MVP, and can't wait to see him starting with the Raiders next season. Who knows what could happen? But I'm making this as a direct opinion, my direct reaction to this news being broke. I don't think this is the end. I really don't. I think I'm holding Josh McDaniels at face value. It sounded like he's kind of just throwing Jarrett Stidham in as experimental in a way, trying to get more data on how other quarterbacks kind of play in this scheme, this offense. He has the same weapons that everybody said. Carr has no excuses. He's got Adams, Waller, Renfro. Mac Hollins has been playing really well this season, and the best running back in the league, Josh Jacobs. And the other benefit that Jarrett Stidham has is, remember, he was drafted by the Patriots, the same Patriots that had Josh McDaniels and Ziegler. So they're very familiar with him. They like him a lot. And Jarrett Stidham is very familiar with Josh McDaniels' play calling and his scheme. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays these last two games. Granted, he's playing against a very good 49ers team, very good 49ers defense, and a very good Kansas City Chiefs team. So, there's caveats to everything, but I do think the benefit of being with Josh McDaniels since 2019 is definitely going to help his case, and he's got very good weapons, the same weapons that Carr has had, that a lot of people say, are a little disappointed in I guess, Carr not taking that next step where I think a lot of people expected him to, and I think that was kind of his downfall this season. He didn't reach expectations. If anything, he fell short. And now we're talking about if he's even going to be the starter next season. So with all that said, I do think he'll be the starter next season. I think that this is just, getting Jarrett Stidham his first NFL start, see how he does, get more reps. I think he's a good backup. I think he's going to stay the backup. But ultimately, I do think Derek Carr is going to stay and be the Raiders starting quarterback next season. Now, there's a couple more elements to this. One being, for example, the storyline is the Raiders with playoff hopes still alive, bench Derek Carr. And that narrative is pretty false, in my opinion. We have, I think, a 1% chance of making the playoffs. I mean, specific teams need to beat certain teams in each week. It's very unlikely, and we have to win out. It's very unlikely. If the Raiders had win the next two games and you're guaranteed into the playoffs, or a much higher percent chance of making it into the playoffs, this whole situation would have never even arisen, would have never even been discussed. So I think Josh McDaniels, the Raiders, are kind of giving up on the playoff run, and I think it's a good idea. I think actually kind of what they're doing, the whole thing, is not a bad idea. I kind of want to see what Jarrett Stidham does. I want to see how he plays with Adams. I want to see how he leads the team versus two very good teams. This isn't we're playing a beat up bad team, so throw in the backup. This is like, let's test that backup and see what he's really made of, because this is one of the biggest tests I feel he could have been given. So that part of it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. And then the other part is Derek Carr. This is very important for the Raiders. Derek Carr needs to pass his end of the year physical. And if he doesn't, if he was hurt, say he got hurt in these last two games and he didn't pass the end of the year physical, the Raiders would be locked in to giving Carr $33 million guaranteed in the next 2 years. And so that pretty much would lock Derek Carr in as the starting quarterback and would give the Raiders no options in regards to the quarterback room. And I think by removing Carr, not chancing that he gets hurt in the final two games, that then just allows that door to be open. And I think that's kind of what they want. Ziegler, McDaniels, I think they want the option. Now, in regards to them, they are very high on Derek Carr. At least they were coming into the season. They've tried in the past trading for Derek Carr to go to the Patriots, but that ended up, not working out. Carr stayed as a Raider, and they thought that coming to the Raiders, the opportunity with Derek Carr at helm was good enough to make that decision and make that move. And I don't think after 1 year they would get rid of a big component of that. I mean, they were very outspoken about liking Derek Carr as a quarterback, liking him as a starter, as a franchise quarterback. And I don't think after 1 year they're going to throw that away. That's kind of one of my big reasons why I feel that they're going to stick with Derek Carr. I think they want to give Derek Carr the opportunity to learn the offense better, learn the scheme better. I mean, after 1 year of any coach, it's very hard to just jump into a new system, be taught new things, and then perform it at a high level. Derek Carr, first year with Gruden, went 4-12. By the third year, Gruden situation, he only played the first, he was only the coach half the season. But even when Rich Bisaccia basically picked up what Gruden left, they ended up 10-7 and went to the playoffs last season. So I think the question of is Derek Carr a good quarterback? Is Derek Carr a quarterback that Josh McDaniels likes? I think that is the answer to that is yes. And I think it takes time, and Josh McDaniels he's not a dumb guy. I don't think he would want to risk the opportunity, the leadership, the skills that Derek Carr has, that he obviously has studied, seen film. He knows who Derek Carr is. I don't think he would want to risk that with, drafting a new rookie quarterback or bringing in a new quarterback and then everything starts from ground zero. I think going into the offseason and then going into next season, I think he likes that Derek Carr is going to be more familiar with that. It'll be his second year under Josh McDaniels' system. And I think that's going to be one of the leading reasons why he's going to want to stick with Carr. Stidham as the backup, I think, is probably going to remain in place as well. But again, this is where these next two games become very important and very interesting, because if Stidham plays very well, it's going to be very hard for anyone to say, okay, give me Carr, when Stidham is going up against two very good teams. And let's see how he throws the ball to a very talented wide receiver core, frankly, a really good offense in general. And then lastly, Josh McDaniels. I mean, Raider fans were calling for him to get fired week after week. I think a lot of Raider fans still aren't bought into Josh McDaniels. So, people were talking about him losing the locker room and all this stuff. I mean, he said that Derek Carr was totally fine with the decision and he understood the situation the Raiders are in. Josh McDaniels seems like a very straight up guy, very transparent. I think him and Carr are probably going to be on very similar pages, if not the same page. I think they're probably talk daily. And I think that's going to be a clear indicator of kind of what's going on the next couple weeks. But it's clear Derek Carr is in the hot seat right now. I think, 9 years as the Raiders starting quarterback, each offseason, it seems this conversation has come up over the last 4 or 5 years. Are the Raiders going to trade Carr? Are the Raiders going to move on from Carr? And it looks like we're here again. But I do think this is probably the most likely season that Carr has had, where he's looking to maybe not be the Raiders starting quarterback. So it'll definitely be an interesting story to follow. But as of right now, my opinion is set. Raiders are not going to move from Derek Carr. This is just to give Stidham some reps, see what the offense, get more data. Everything's data driven these days. See what kind of throws Stidham throws, and put it into the databases and just get more data. I really think that's what it comes down to, and of course, helping make sure Derek Carr stays healthy, to make sure the Raiders don't back themselves into a wall. And it's going to come down to that. And next year we'll see Derek Carr in the Raiders uniform, starting quarterback again. And it's going to then they'll have more time. He'll understand the scheme better. Josh McDaniels himself and the rest of the offense are all going to be on the same page, more so because it'll be the second year in the same system. And that's how it's going to be. And they're going to grow the depth, the draft. They're going to draft better offensive linemen, get the defense amped up. I mean, hey, we'll see what happens. Anything can happen, and that's just my opinion. So I'm really interested to see what you guys think. That's just my opinion. So leave a like, comment down below. I want to read what other people are thinking, and then I'll see you on the next NJ Raider Nation video.